Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB and today is the 1st of September 2022. And to be honest, the market is not looking good at all. And historically, September has, if not been, one of the few months where the cryptocurrency market does tend to fall down a lot below. Cryptocurrency market is still below the $1 trillion mark. As a matter of fact, it is down to $977 billion. Again, just to recap, guys, when Bitcoin reached its all-time high, only the market cap of Bitcoin was hovering around the $1.2 trillion mark. Today, 1st of September, the entire global crypto market is at $977 billion. So definitely not good. In today's episode, what I'm going to be talking about is El Salvador's Bitcoin beach. And they have received $203 million, and that funding is going to be utilized in order to build that Bitcoin beach city. So definitely positive news. But if you look at what's going on in El Salvador, so far as Bitcoin is concerned, I really am not sure if President Nayib Bukele thinks this as a positive news. Now, Simon Dixon last week did meet with President Nayib Bukele and he plans to have a recovery plan. I really am not sure if the Bitcoin beach investment of $203 million. In today's episode, we'll also be discussing a congressman who's from the left wing called as Raja Krishnamurthy. Now, he has written a letter to the CEO of Binance US, and the CEO's name is Brian Schroeder. And in that letter, he's questioning Binance authenticity, how he tackles the safety of its customers. So he's requested some information, some documents by the 12th of September. So we'll be discussing that in today's episode. And one question which I keep asking often is, when you talk about politics and Bitcoin, in purest sense, Bitcoin should be apolitical, but the right wings or the Republicans are generally in favor of Bitcoin, open source and freedom. The left wing, not so much, or Democratic Party, not so much. And we'll also share some similar thoughts so far as politics and Bitcoin is concerned regarding UK and in India as well. And finally, we'll also be looking at Bitcoin's mining hash rate. Now, 2 days ago, I talked about how Bitcoin mining hash rate is on the verge of reaching a new all-time high. So we have some new numbers. We'll definitely be exploring that. And I'll also try to discuss why having such high security is not good for Bitcoin safety as well, because there is a very high chance for a 51% attack. And there are a couple of videos giving very technical reasons and explanation on why the Bitcoin security is not so high. As a matter of fact, Adam Back has an interview with Anita Posh where they discuss pretty much the same thing as well. Now, regarding UAE, I have two news. Both the news are from Blockchain DXB. I have an event called as Bitcoin Beginner's Guide, which I tend to have every month. So we'll be exploring that, and essentially, it is a 3-part series that starts from the 9th of September till the 23rd of September. And these sessions are completely free of cost. I also have an Ethereum Beginner's Guide, which starts from the 9th of September. So I'll go ahead and explain what are the details that I'll be talking about in these sessions. So welcome everyone, it's 8 you're in Dubai and you're listening to Crypto and Coffee at 8, where we cover top news and information pertaining to Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi and Metaverse. And how the series of episodes in the Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well. News that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi and Metaverse. This is followed by Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions from the cryptocurrency world. Tomorrow, that is Fridays, we have an episode called Metaverse Everything, where we solely focus on Metaverse, so please check out those episodes as well. The format for Metaverse Everything podcast is completely different, and what I do is I tend to publish a daily and weekly report via my LinkedIn profile, and my LinkedIn profile is in the show notes below. Or you can also go to my website, that is Blockchain DXB, and look at these blogs at the crypto blog sections. If you're into the Medium website, go to the Medium website and just type in Blockchain DXB. So let's kickstart today's news. Now, today's the 1st of September, and historically, September has not been the best month for the stock market, for the fintech sector, and also for the cryptocurrency sector. The global crypto market is well below the $1 trillion mark. As of today, it stands at $977.87 billion. Now, with midterm elections taking place in November, I believe it's on the 8th of November, there is a very high possibility that around the month of October or so, the prices of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies may go up. But once again, guys, my price predictions are 100% right 50% of the time. Now, since the last 24 hours, it is down by 1.70%. The total crypto market volume over the last 24 hours is currently at $66.60 billion. That's 666. Now, since the last 24 hours, it is down by 10.17%. The volume of DeFi is down to $5.21 billion. Now, what I'm doing is, since the past few days, I'm also looking at the total value locked in DeFi. As of today, 1st of September, the total value locked in DeFi across all DeFi platforms is $59.51 billion. At its all-time high, the total value locked in DeFi, as a matter of fact, even in January of this year, the total value locked was hovering around the $240 to $250 billion. Today, it's down to $59.51 billion, and MakerDAO does account for majority of the chunk of 39.39%, and the total value locked is $7.97 billion. Now, DeFi accounts for 7.83% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. And guys, back in 2020 and 2021, DeFi used to account for 16 to 17% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. Let's look at the volume of stablecoins. The volume of stablecoins as of 1st of September is $60.23 billion, and stablecoin accounts for 90.43% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. The big news that is going on in the cryptocurrency space, especially if you are an Ethereum maximalist, is the comparison between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So let's look at the market share, 24-hour trading volume, and dominance. Bitcoin's market share has marginally gone up, and it is currently at $384 billion. Ethereum is below 50% of that of Bitcoin's market share, and it is currently at $190 billion. The 24-hour trading volume has gone up for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin's 24-hour trading volume is $31.8 billion, and Ethereum's 24-hour trading volume is $18.9 billion. The dominance of Bitcoin is 39.28%, and Ethereum's dominance is 19.40%. Now, with less than 2 weeks for the merge date, do you guys think Ethereum flips Bitcoin? Now, it might not happen this year. It might take at least 6 to 9 months for Ethereum to flip Bitcoin. But the big event that is going to take place is the Ethereum merge. And what I plan to do is every Wednesdays, I plan to release an episode focusing all the matrix, the inflows and outflows, the comparison between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now let's look at the price of Bitcoin, the king of all kings. It is currently at $20,074, and since the last 24 hours, it is down by 1.39%. Since the last 7 days, it is down by 6.97%. Ethereum is down to $1,554, and since the last 24 hours, it is down to 3.08%. Since the last 7 days, it is down by 7.39%. So the big question for you guys is, as the merge date keeps getting closer, is there a possibility of the price of Bitcoin to cross the $2,000 mark? Maybe after the 7th or 8th of this month. I think that there might be a lot of volume so far as the price of Ethereum is concerned. But let's wait and see how the cryptocurrency market works. Binance Coin is currently at $278. Since the last 24 hours, it is down by 3.72%. And since the last 7 days, it is down by 6.49%. Today in particular, there's a lot of negative news going on regarding Binance, and we'll be discussing about that, how left-wing politicians are not in favor of cryptocurrencies and open source and even freedom in general, and how that impacts cryptocurrencies. But that being said, the congressman is just asking for a lot of information, and if you look at it from a customer's point of view, the whole intention is to go ahead and safeguard customers' interest. So let's try to look at that in a bit. Let's start with today's massive news, and this is to do with El Salvador. Now, ever since President Nayib Bukele made Bitcoin a legal tender, there have been a mixture of reaction, positive as well as negative news. Unfortunately, the whole movement is not turning out to be fruitful for Bitcoin as well as for El Salvador. But the news for today is the Bitcoin beach in El Salvador, and they have received $203 million as funding in infrastructural investment. So the official news is by President Nayib Bukele, and it is written in the native language. So I would definitely recommend you guys to go ahead and read through it. But when you're reading through it, when you're converting it into English, I'm pretty much sure that there might be some translation errors. So if there's a podcast with President Nayib Bukele explaining what the movement is, I think that would be brilliant. So the whole funding of $203 million will be utilized in building roads, will be utilized in building bridges, and the entire movement of Surf City or Bitcoin Beach will be benefited by this. Now what I think is, if you are into metaverse, this would be a brilliant and perfect time to replicate that into metaverse. Now it'd be really cool if Meta or Facebook and is an early developer so far as the Surf City or Bitcoin is concerned. Now tomorrow's episode where I talk about metaverse everything, I'll definitely touch base on this. Now I've said this in the past, in metaverse, Bitcoin using Lightning Network would be the perfect use case as opposed to cryptocurrencies or maybe even central bank digital currencies. So if you are someone who's working in the metaverse and are a Bitcoin maximalist who has thorough knowledge of Bitcoin Lightning Network, this is a brilliant area of opportunity. Now let's look at politics and Bitcoin. Left-leaning Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who's the Democratic Party, has addressed a letter to the CEO of Binance called Brian Schroeder. That letter is intended to review all Binance US files related to consumer safety. So the official letter can be found in my LinkedIn profile. Now in that letter, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy has shown strong concern about the growth of fraud and consumer abuse linked to cryptocurrencies. And what he has done is he's requested documents from Brian Schroeder by the 12th of September. And if you go through the article, in that letter he's questioning 5 specific areas on how Binance is tackling fraud and tackling consumer abuse linked to cryptocurrencies. And if you look at the document, or if you look at what he's asking, it is pretty much straightforward. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Schroeder does actually submit the documents in a matter of 2 to 3 days as well. This brings me to a big question. Bitcoin is supposed to be apolitical. Now in theory, yes, it definitely is, but in reality, politicians and politics do have a massive impact on the price of Bitcoin and adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Now the entire movement of separation of money and the state will eventually happen. It might even take maybe a couple of decades, but in the meantime, let's try to discuss what political party is in favor of Bitcoin, open source, freedom and cryptocurrencies. Now in US, generally speaking, the right wing or Republicans are in favor of Bitcoin, open source and innovation. Left wing or Democratic Party, not so much. That's not to say that the left wing are completely against Bitcoin and open source. There are a couple of Senate members and congressmen who are definitely in favor of Bitcoin and open source innovation as well. If you look at Gary Gensler, he's a Democratic Party and he used to be a professor of Bitcoin and blockchain technologies. Generally speaking, the right wing are in favor, left wing not so much. The same thing in UK. The right wing or conservatives are generally in favor of Bitcoin, open source, freedom and cryptocurrencies. The left wing or Labour Party not so much. The left wing politicians have said some really nasty things about Bitcoin and open source technology. Now in India, I really am not sure if the right wing politicians, that is BJP, are in favor of Bitcoin, open source, cryptocurrencies or not. The left wing, that is Congress Party, are definitely not in favor. Now, I am originally from India. I know for a fact that in India, the Supreme Court is in favor of Bitcoin cryptocurrencies. The Reserve Bank of India, or called as the central bank, are definitely against cryptocurrencies. So if you have any comments or suggestions, please mention them in the show notes below. And if you're someone working in Indian cryptocurrency exchange, would definitely like to release a podcast discussing exactly the same thing. Now what I tend to do, guys, every month, I have a session called as Pestel R analysis on Bitcoin. Now, what that talks about is pestle R, that is P for political, E for economical, S for social, T for technological, L for legal, E for environmental, R for religious analysis on Bitcoin. In that sessions, I discuss all these things in detail. And I'll just like to share some more points so far as politics in US is concerned and how it's connected to Bitcoin and open source. Eleanor Terrett, who's a journalist at Fox Business, and she has mentioned via Twitter that Gary Gensler will be testifying in the front of United States Senate Committee of Banking and Housing and Urban Affairs, and he will be testifying on the 15th of September. Now, I'm not sure this is official news, but she's a journalist and she has tweeted about it. Now, whenever there are these testimonies, they're often shown live on YouTube. Now, these sessions are ridiculously long, sometimes lasting 2 to 3 days, 6 to 8 hours in a day. So if you do want to watch information from first source, you definitely need to watch the entire thing rather than just listening to cherry-picked piece of information that mainstream tends to provide. Now let's look at the next news about Bitcoin, and this is massive, but not necessarily a positive news. And this is about Bitcoin mining. Now, as you know that every 2016 block, the Bitcoin mining difficulty gets adjusted, which means if too many miners are mining, and if the mining is difficult, the software automatically makes it easier. If it is extremely easy, it makes it much more difficult. So every 2016 block, the Bitcoin mining difficulty gets automatically adjusted. Now, Bitcoin mining is on the verge of reaching a new all-time high of 231 exahash. Now, what you can do is you can track it by any Bitcoin Explorer. Now, as a rule, the more hashing or computing power in the network, the greater is the security and the overall resistance to attack. But the question which I keep questioning again is, Bitcoin security is so strong, making it much more stronger. Does it actually make any sense? Now, the Bitcoin mining difficulty jumped 9.26% higher. It recorded the second highest difficulty rise in 2022, and it's currently now 11.63% harder to find a Bitcoin block reward. But what that actually means is that there are many miners who are available and are trying to mine these Bitcoins. Now, if you do want to look at the actual change in the mining difficulty, you need to look at block height number 751,968. So you can actually see the difference. And Bitcoin.com, they have stated that currently the difficulty is 30.98 trillion, which is only 0.27 below the network difficulty's all-time high. Now guys, look, having so much of security may sound great, but it's definitely not needed. Now, the all-time high was in May of 10, 2022. Now, think of it like having a room to a door, and you have 8 different doors with 8 different locks. So having so much of security may sound great, but it is definitely not needed. And there are also a couple of videos explaining why having so much of security and having so much of investments in Bitcoin network could also lead to a potential 51% attack. Now let me explain how this would work is, let's say a few miners decide that they no longer want to mine Bitcoin, but there are other miners who have the equipment needed to go ahead and mine these Bitcoins. As the Bitcoin mining hash rate reduces, there are other miners who have the equipments, who have the economies of scale, and there might just be a possibility for them to do a 51% attack. Now, Adam Back, who is the CEO of Blockstream, and who I personally think might be Satoshi Nakamoto, he has a really interesting interview with Anita Posh, and they also discuss pretty much the same thing, that having so much of security may not necessarily be ideal for Bitcoin and Bitcoin's blockchain ecosystem. And in fact, last month, miners in Texas suspended operations to help energy grid and conserve energy during heat wave. But what happens if there are certain political parties who do actually prevent certain states from mining in the future? Now, you need to remember, if that thing happens, there are miners set up elsewhere who have ridiculously strong mining hash rate power. Can they do a 51% attack? Most likely it wouldn't happen, but again, it is just a thought. Now, my big question is, With Ethereum on the verge of switching from proof of work to proof of stake, how will the government and the global elite react to Bitcoin energy mining consumption? And one thing I talked about in a podcast, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, where Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, he actually mentioned that he's working with two energy firms and they're just on the verge of discussion if the Bitcoin mining consumption can be transferred to a renewable form of energy. BlackRock, they are if not one of the biggest giants in the entire world, and it would be so easier for them to go and switch from proof of work to proof of stake. Now that thing may not happen, but BlackRock is an absolute giant. As of now, I believe they have over $13 trillion of assets under management. And if you look at the cryptocurrency global market, it is well below $1 trillion. Now guys, let's look at two news from UAE. But what I tend to do is every month, I have an event on Bitcoin Beginner's Guide, and I also have an event on the Ethereum Beginner's Guide. Now the Bitcoin Beginner's Guide, it is a 3-part series which starts from the 9th of September till the 23rd of September. It is an initiative to train, educate, and consult the people of Dubai on Bitcoin and blockchain technology, which is in line with Dubai blockchain technology. Now these sessions are completely free of cost, and you can find these events on eventbrite.com, or you can also find it on my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com, or you can also drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. So let me quickly explain what are the topics that will be discussed on the 9th of September, on the 16th of September, and on the 23rd of September. So on the 9th of September, we'll be looking at the history of Bitcoin, the projects before Bitcoin, the prior problems with cryptocurrencies, and what did Bitcoin actually solve. Bitcoin solved the double spend problem. So I'll go ahead and explore what is the double spend problem, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, why it matters and why it doesn't. We'll also look at how Bitcoin works. So this whole notion of block and chain technology, what goes into a block, what goes into a chain. Now the session lasts from 11 o'clock in the morning till 12 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. And on the 16th of September, we'll be looking at BFT, that is the Byzantine Fault Tolerance, and that is the whole power of private key, and public address. We'll also be discussing the Bitcoin white paper. We won't go into details, we'll just have a general explanation. We'll also look at what is a private key, what is a public key, what is SHA-256, that is Secure Hashing Algorithm 256. And we'll also discuss what is hashing algorithm, mathematics, and cryptography. Now we'll do this at a very basic level. So if you have no experience in coding, no experience on cryptography, it's perfectly fine. I'll explain it at a very easy to understand level. We'll also discuss how the Bitcoin mining works, the halving of Bitcoin, and we'll also discuss the mining difficulty that we talked about earlier today. So loads of information again on the 16th of September from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. And finally on the 23rd of September, what we'll do is we'll discuss the Bitcoin market share. We will also discuss if Ethereum would actually flip Bitcoin, because by the 23rd of September, the transition from Ethereum proof of work to proof of stake would have eventually happened. We'll also discuss the forks of Bitcoin. We'll discuss the basics of Lightning Network and Liquid Network. We'll talk about the different types of Bitcoin, the different wallets that you can use, the pillars of Bitcoin and open blockchain versus private blockchain. And if you do want to buy and sell, I'll also share some tips, but I'll not be giving absolutely any investment advice. We'll also discuss the current and the future state of Bitcoin. And this event takes place on the 23rd of September from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. Now let's discuss the second news for today from UAE, and this is an event called as Ethereum Beginner's Guide. This takes place on 9th of September from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. It's called as Ethereum Beginner's Guide. Once again guys, this is done in line with Dubai blockchain strategy, an initiative to trade, educate and consult the people on blockchain technology. You can find these events on eventbrite.com or blockchaindxb.com, or you can also drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. Now in this particular session, I'm going to be discussing what is Ethereum, the history of Ethereum, the projects that attempted to make protocols before Ethereum, the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll discuss the challenges faced by Ethereum, some of the DAO attack that happened in the past. We'll discuss the Ethereum London hard fork, we'll also discuss this massive question where Ethereum flips Bitcoin. And this will be really interesting because it'll literally be a few days before the actual merge date. We'll discuss also the merge, the surge, the verge, the purge, the splurge, all the major updates so far as the merge date is concerned. But once again, guys, you do not need absolutely any technical information, no software skills, or even Ethereum knowledge is needed. I'll explain it at a very, very basic level. And if you do want to get involved in Ethereum, I'll also share some tips on how to build on Ethereum. We'll also discuss some of the competitors of Ethereum like Solana, what are they lacking. We'll also discuss EOS, we'll also discuss Algorand and any upcoming protocols. And we look at the current and the future state of Ethereum. And once again, guys, this event is at a completely beginner and basic level, so ideally suited with someone with little or no experience. But if you do have some any experience, you're more than welcome to attend these sessions as well. The sessions are completely free of cost, and there will be absolutely no investment advice so far as the price predictions of Ethereum is concerned. So that's all for today, guys, on the Crypto and Coffee Update from Blockchain DXB. In case if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, please drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. Check out my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com. You can also check out my other website, that is area2071.com, that talks everything about Metaverse, and I'll be releasing an episode tomorrow. And if you like listening to this podcast, please click on the follow button, give it a 5-star rating, and share the word across. Now for the next 30 minutes is going to be an Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. So let's kick start with the Ask Me Anything series. Hey everyone, it's George from Blockchain DXB. You're listening to the Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. How the series of episodes in the Crypto and Coffee Update works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well, news that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE, and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And what you're listening to right now is the Ask Me Anything series, where your listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. I have a question by Tariq who asks, what are your thoughts on Michael Saylor being sued for evasion of tax? Tariq, personally, I am not at all a fan of Michael Saylor. I think he's definitely not the right advocate so far as Bitcoin is concerned. Now, that being said, Tariq, I don't think that we should kick a person when he is down. Now, Michael Saylor is definitely not the right person so far as Bitcoin is concerned. And what's going on right now is they're trying to sue him for evasion of tax. Once again, this is in Washington District, which is definitely more of a left-leaning state, more of a state which is controlled by the Democrats. So I really am not sure if it is a good idea for Michael Saylor and for MicroStrategy as well. Now, I did read reports online where I believe because of Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy could be in a position to lose roughly around $1.6 billion. Now, that is ridiculously a high amount. Now, I really am not sure what the details are so far as the evasion of tax is concerned. I'm pretty much sure that is something confidential between him and his lawyers. Generally speaking, left-wing states are definitely not in favor of cryptocurrencies, not only Bitcoin. In fact, earlier today in the podcast, we also talked about a congressman who I believe was originally from India, and he's also against cryptocurrency adoption, and he's requested documents from Binance, and so definitely not looking good. Now, I do hope that everything is safe and sound personally for Michael Saylor. Now, despite me not liking him, I must say that he does have a program where he offers free education. As a matter of fact, he's also working with Dr. Saifuddin Amos, and he's offering free education so far as Bitcoin and freedom is concerned. That is a brilliant thing. But if you look at his tweets, some of the tweets that he's been mentioning via Twitter are absolutely incorrect and false news. Now, keeping that in mind, he's definitely not the right advocate for Bitcoin. But the big problem what I see, Tariq, is he has invested quite a lot of money in Bitcoin. I think he might be safe from a micro strategy point is concerned. The company might be safe because he has a buffer that only if the price of Bitcoin goes below $2,000 is when they might be actually facing a lot of financial losses. Till that time, at least MicroStrategy and the people who have invested in MicroStrategy are safe. Now, this move against suing him, I think it's more of a personal case, depending on how he individually has filed for tax returns. Now, I definitely am not a fan of Michael Saylor, but once again, I don't think we should be kicking a person, especially when they are down. I do really hope that everything works out perfectly fine for him. What I worry is, and this is something which I mentioned 6 months ago, let's say if anything were to happen and if Michael Saylor were to go to prison, for instance, that news will have a strong impact on Bitcoin. What the mainstream media, who are left-wing leaning, will be linking that news to Bitcoin. They would say an advocate of Bitcoin is known for evading taxes and currently now in prison. Mainstream media will try to twist the news, and that is something which I worry about. Hopefully, nothing wrong happens to him and nothing wrong happens to the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That's all that I have to say, Tariq. He does have some really good free education, so please check out his website. And he also has a couple of series with Dr. Saifuddin Amos where they talk about Bitcoin in general, the whole fiat standard, the whole Bitcoin standard, and quite a lot more. I do not agree to maybe 60 to 80% of what he's saying. And some of them, what I notice on LinkedIn, they call Michael Saylor a legend and an idol. Absolutely rubbish. Now, Michael Saylor has only been introduced to Bitcoin in 2020. So, even his tweets, a lot of the information is absolutely incorrect. Now, I do give credit to Michael Saylor, where he actually sold the domain name called voice.com. Now, I think he has an interview. I'm not sure if the interview is with Anthony Pompliano. It might be going back to maybe 2019. So please check it out, Tariq, where he does not talk a lot about Bitcoin, but he actually talks about his decision to sell the domain name voice.com. And I think he bought it for less than $10 or less than $30. And he kept hodling it when he got the first offer. He was surprised that the person actually was willing to pay so much of money. So what he did at the last moment, he said no, he doesn't want to sell it. Then the offer amount kept on increasing, and finally he sold it for $30 million, and he sold it to EOS, which happened to raise $4 billion in one of the biggest ICOs in the world. So that's all for today, guys, on the Ask Me Anything series on Blockchain DXB. In case if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, drop me an email to info@blockchaindxb.com. You can also check out my website, that is www.blockchaindxb.com. And tomorrow we have Metaverse Everything podcast, where we talk everything about Metaverse. And to find out more information about Metaverse, check out my other website, that is area2071.com. If you like listening to this podcast, please click on the follow button, give it a 5-star rating, and share the word across. And remember, guys, Monday to Thursdays, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., we have Crypto and Coffee at 8, where we cover top news and information pertaining to Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And how the series of episodes on the Crypto and Coffee at 8 works is, we usually cover some top news and information pertaining to the price of cryptocurrencies, some major breaking news, occasionally short and sweet news as well, news that has an impact in the cryptocurrency world. The other two news and information is related to Dubai, UAE, and Middle East in the world of Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And what you're listening to right now is the Ask Me Anything series, where you listeners can ask any questions about Bitcoin, blockchain, beyond blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.